Hey everyone, welcome to the CyberHub Engage podcast. We are smiling because Micah just gave us the ultimate countdown from behind the scenes that just cracked us all up. Welcome to our 2020 Cyber State of the Union address.
Yeah.
Rip it up.
Yeah.
Rip it up. So we're in Dallas, Texas. Hours before our CISO Roundtable here, I'm with Patrick Beniot, the BISO at CBRE, and Mark Houpt, the CISO at our beautiful host tonight at DataBank. Very lovely building, man.
Yep, thank you.
I like all the, keeping, if this was San Francisco, you'd have just a bunch of homeless people just laying along the fences here. You'd have, little cardboard boxes.
Yeah, but this is Plano. We're a little higher class here. Just a little bit. No offense to San Francisco. It's probably a little too cold for the cardboard boxes.
If you'd have been here yesterday, you may have seen that, but we cleaned it up for you too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, if we stick around long enough, that road out there, I guarantee you'll see an accident.
I saw one this morning.
Yeah. All right. You've had yours for the day then.
I saw one this morning. A Tahoe turned left from the restaurants down there, and a RAV4 just came, bam, just slammed right into the back of it.
Almost every time I'm here, I see when the rush hour starts, about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I will see an accident out there. I hear the screech and then the crash.
Well, it was raining this morning.
Yeah.
And that RAV4 driver could have avoided the accident.
What is this play-by-play now?
What would have been the fun in that, though?
I was watching it, and I won't say I enjoyed watching an accident because I just know, but I'm just like, come on, folks. Instincts. If more people served in the military, maybe we'd have a little bit better instincts.
You have to look at the bright side from the RAV4 driver's point of view. At least now he doesn't have to explain why he drives a RAV4.
Yes, that is.
So there's a bright side to everything.
That is a Toyota product, right?
That's right.
And they're headquartered here in Plano,
Well, they
so
are, they are.
watch out.
But they're still taking some flack from being in California for so long. So
Toyota's based out of Texas?
Right across the highway here, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's a monster building over there.
They brought 3,000 odd employees a couple years ago.
Yeah, U.S. headquarters.
From California.
Torrance,
California. There's a lot of headquarters that are moving from California to Dallas area.
And Capital One's right there, right? And Pepsi's
Pepsi,
State Farm,
Intuit,
Liberty Mutual.
State Farm's down by where we were last night
yeah.
at Richardson area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Liberty Mutual consolidated their headquarters. USAA's down the road. They got a data center.
This area here, and Patrick, you could talk better than I could about this, I'm sure, but this area out here, I'm told 5 years ago, was open cattle range, farmland, and now you see everything that's here. It's a major city right now up here in Plano. So.
Yeah, and it's nice to see a 6-lane road here, though.
Oh, these are the small ones.
Yeah. So if you're coming from the hotel and walking across at rush hour, we call this Frogger.
Yeah.
We just did that when we walked over here from the hotel. Now
I saw you.
Micah was like, this is really dangerous. I'm like, come on, Micah. Grow a pair.
It's Frogger.
It's Frogger. Let's run across. And he just takes off running. I hope your wife listens to this, Micah, and realizes you cross the street with no crosswalk, running with the...
You can tell who was in the Air Force and who was in the Army.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because we know cars stop for us.
You were running from it like a good Air Force guy, right?
We arm and we go head on into the fire. We don't sit around eating steaks. And
the only good thing about that there is a median that has grass on it, so you can land.
Down. Yeah.
You can land halfway across, like good Frogger opportunity, and then kind of work your way through.
Yeah.
I have seen that, and Google has a free Frogger game.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that still existed anymore.
So they got a bunch of Google's invented this whole way of keeping the younger generation on Google with free games like Snake and Frogger and
Wow.
you name it.
That's interesting.
They got that flight simulator too.
Yeah.
How secure are they though?
It's Google.
So
let's.
It's the cloud. It must be secure,
yeah, it
right?
must be safe. Our State of the Union. I shall start this. So
Okay.
I've decided to kind of top this off as the State of the Union. State of the Union was yesterday, obviously. We've all seen it. We all know the controversies behind the State of the Union. But in cybersecurity, we don't really have a State of the Union. So I figured we're going to do this as our State of the Union. kind of talking about the industry as a whole, looking at 2019, looking at 2020 from a technology perspective, from a threat perspective, from a role workforce perspective, and so many other things. So this is going to be a really, really fun episode. But before we get into our State of the Union, just a quick message from our friends and sponsors of the show. All right, friends, let's talk about one of our podcast supporters, PlexTrack. When it comes to security assessments, I think we can all agree on one thing: reporting sucks. I know I hate writing reports, which is why I pawn it off to my staff, but not all of you could do that. Red teams hate that there's no platform that gives them what they need to efficiently and consistently deliver their best reports. Blue teams and CISOs and VPs hate copying and pasting findings from all these multiple sources, all these different Excels, into some sort of ticketing system that then generates some sort of analytics reports that's really jimmy-rigged. And so PlexTrack, our sponsors and friends, have finally solved the pain of security assessment reporting for the red and blue teams all in one. For red teams, PlexTrack's custom templating and write-up repository ensures consistency across reports. Reports can be delivered in the browser or exported to a custom Word and PDF document if you still live in that world. For blue team, PlexTrack aggregates security issues into dynamic reports that enables remediation collaboration. Further analytics visually tell the story of the security posture to the C-suite, helping give a complete and final picture for everyone. As a loyal CyberHub Engage listener, you have a special offer of a free 30-day, no contracts, no credit cards, no risks trial of their amazing platform. So go to plextrack.com/CyberHub. Again, that's PlexTrack, PLEXTRACS for Charlie, /CyberHub to get your free month of trial on their platform. I will tell you this, I've seen it, I love it. People who have tried this platform have given us rave reviews on it. It really does simplify the red team, blue team communication and helps us all be far more organized in reporting our vulnerabilities. So again, go to plextrack.com/CyberHub for a free 30-day trial. Hey everyone, want to talk to you about our newest sponsor, a company I've known for a few years now. Been a follower of them and appreciate their work, Unbound Technologies. They're finally on board with us here at CyberHub Engage. So let me tell you a little bit about what they do. If you don't have a secure cryptographic foundation, chances are you're struggling to understand the status and security of your cryptographic keys. Unbound's key security and management experts can help with that. Their FIPS validated cryptographic key security and management platform allows you to maintain visibility of all your keys, whether on-prem or in the cloud, without compromising on security. Know exactly where your keys are and how they're being used. Manage them all with a single pane of glass. Automate operations in your organizations. Save time and manpower as well as money. With Unbound, your enterprise can achieve agility, efficiency, gain control, and reduce risk. Today, Unbound is giving all of you an amazing white paper to look at where you can manage your enterprise key management. I've actually read this white paper. It's great. It's helped me a ton with managing my enterprise key management program. You can go to bit.ly/get-unbound. Again, bit.ly/get-unbound. You'll see the description on our website, on this episode description and everywhere else. Click that link, go download that white paper, bit.ly/get-unbound. Hey everyone, I really want you to help me in supporting our early sponsor, Get Smarteye. So Get Smarteye still in beta testing, but what Get Smarteye is, it's an amazing app that lets you control your privacy, whether it be documents, pictures, anything that you want to share with your friends or not. Think of Snapchat, only no screenshots and no one else looking over it. So if you travel a lot, if you're in airports, coffee shops, shared workspaces, and you care about your privacy, Get Smarteye is the right app for you to protect your privacy. And here's the deal. Get Smarteye is still in beta testing. I use the app all the time. In fact, some of you know that I travel a lot, and when I do, I don't like people looking at my screen at airports. I do everything off my phone, and as such, I use Get Smarteye for all my sensitive documents and all my planning. So here's what you need to do to be one of our early technology adapters, an exclusive offer for CyberHub Engage listeners.
text 41411. Again, that's 41411, 41411, and type in the message of your text, Smarteye. Then reply to the SMS that you're going to get with the letter Y, like Yankee, and download the Apple Test Flight app. Then go back to your SMS and you'll get a link to download the Smarteye app. Download the Smarteye app and use it. Again, this is an early offer for only CyberHub Engage users. Text 41411. Again, that's 41411 with Smarteye in the message.
All right, and we're back. So I guess we'll start off with 2019. How would you guys summarize last year in cyber?
It was an awakening for many people. I think that it was as terrible as we like to think. The criminals are. In one way, they kind of did us a bit of a service because we have more people, smaller companies, cities, governments, all thinking about it, and they've finally realized that it's real, that they can be attacked, and that they need to take precautions. They need to start thinking with a security mindset. So, that's the silver lining, I guess.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think awakening, if you were to tag one word on it, awakening would be good, because I have seen in people coming to my company in DataBank in trying to contract services that security is now the leading piece of the conversation. Not just because we have the services, but because that is what they are seeking, they are after. It is the first thing. It's not how much does DataBank cost, or how much floor space do you have, or what services can you offer. It's what is your security, and what kind of, are you ISO 27001, are you NIST standard, what exactly are you doing for security controls? So those are new people that are coming towards us, and then the people that are existing customers are now coming back around and asking for more security and asking for security again. They may have come on board with us with no security or minimal security a few years ago, and now they're coming back saying, well, wait a minute, this ransomware thing or whatever's hitting their environment. I've had a number of customers come to us that have said, I need a BAA, and they've been with us for years and have now come around to saying, hey, I need that BAA signed.
And I think that the flip side to that too is that, so these smaller customers or newer customers that are asking for security, and they're taking reasonable advice on what security to implement. The other side of that is we have large institutional customers, financial institutions especially, that had relatively mature security and compliance type programs to begin with, and now because of the events of last year, in some ways they've gone absolutely panic stricken. They're deer in the headlights, and they're asking for things to check boxes that don't ensure more security.
Right.
But it makes them feel better.
Right.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that boards don't yet understand the difference between compliance and security.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, many CISOs don't know how to explain the difference between compliance and security, because it's easier to say, I need this money for compliance than it is I need it for security.
But nor do regulators understand the difference between compliance and security.
Right.
Well, so
you're right. Absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, this morning when I was doing the daily cyber briefing, I was doing a story on GDPR and how the Irish have decided to start investigating how Google and Tinder process people's data. And I'm like, that's not, GDPR is so vague. It's just so up for any regulator to interpret it any way they want. It's not real privacy. I have like a real problem with GDPR and CCPA because I feel like they're pointless. We're dealing with a problem from a perspective of how can the government generate more revenue,
Oh, absolutely.
rather than how do we really do a service to our citizens, our tax-paying citizens, and then also enhance the company's ability to be able to do business a little bit better. Instead, we're creating a bunch of consultants that just walk around and saying, I know how you can be CCPA compliant, and you're like,
Right.
God.
Yeah, we called that in the military accelerating the ridiculous into oblivion.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you look at kind of 2019 and you can say the last quarter of the year was a ransomware. It was kind of like I wouldn't say the whole year was ransomware.
I would.
Really?
I would say it was, because every time you turned around from at least February, March on. I mean, when was Baltimore hit? Baltimore was hit in
December.
April, May.
I think so.
April, you can look it up. April or May of last spring, shall we say? And they weren't the first hit. When was Atlanta hit? I think Atlanta was
in 2018.
Right.
Atlanta was right after. It was within the mayor's first 100 days in office.
right. So these things, the ransomware pieces, I think that's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, story of 2019 from an attack vector perspective. And I believe it's ramped up crazy right now, and I believe it's going to be even more of a story in 2020.
So
not to get too far ahead of you.
So Baltimore was in May.
Yeah. I think the attack actually occurred in April, but it really impacted in May.
Yeah. But the thing is too that there's always been an adage in journalism that I think perfectly fits this, because we talk about breaches being leaks of data,
Right.
Which effectively is bleeding data, and we all know in journalism, if it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
And that's kind of what's happening, is they figured out that this is a lead story that they can put out there that's going to grab the person out there that has no earthly idea exactly what it means, but they can lead this as a story and capture their attention, and it'll be like watching a traffic accident. It'll drive headlines. So.
Yeah, I think part of that is the clickbait mentality of ransomware. The other part is the hackers figured out, hey, why is all these different websites making money off of our ransomware attacks? We're going to just create our own websites and start shaming and naming our victims.
But again, not to get too far ahead of us here, but you know what I'm seeing most ransomware right now? It doesn't have anything to do with phishing or clickbait. It's RDP, port 3389, brute force attack with going after admin credentials and then laying the ransomware, usually it's cryptoware, right onto the servers.
Right. So
there's really a multiple attack vector going on, because they're compromising the user ID and the password in there in order to lay that down.
You see that often, though.
Right.
I mean, they're going through that. I got to tell you, it's very interesting to see how the ransomwares have developed from a brute force sense outside of phishing, because the phishing stuff is giving them credentials, not always the right set of credentials, and I think that's where proper identity acts, proper IAM, really does kind of create a level of hindrance. But then at the same time, these ransomware attacks are just getting far more sophisticated, and they're encrypting the backups.
Right.
They're naming and shaming. I mean, they took Obama's playbook and turned it around on the victims.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see if they kind of go to the next level, and everything you sell and you build in the world eventually gets commoditized over time, because somebody figures out how to do it, bigger, better, faster, and to put it out to more people. So is the next realm that we get ransomware into IoT devices, whether it be residential or otherwise, and we commoditize such a small amount per device that we have people basically, dropping quarters in the machine to pay for ransom on certain things.
See, I don't think we're going to see it in IoT devices, other than bots, bot infections
Controls.
that are attacking back. Now, I may be wrong, but in reality, if somebody gets an IoT device that's attacked, most of those devices are unplug them, plug them back in, and they start up with a running config. Or someone that knows how to do it can easily lay down an iOS, if you will, onto a device fairly easily. So other than inconvenience, you're not stealing data with an IoT device. All you're doing is make it an inconvenience. And the real winners in that is going to be the people that make the IoT devices, because most people are not going to realize that they can, other than unplug, stop, start, turn it off, turn it on kind of thing, the old IT thing. Mm-hmm. But most people are not going to realize that they could potentially lay down the new iOS by downloading it and putting it on there. They're going to go to Walmart, they're going to go wherever and buy their new device. So the real winner of an IoT attack like that is going to be the manufacturer, not the
VAR.
Right. They're not stealing data in that place. All they're doing is taking the CIA triad. They're doing the availability piece. Right now, they're attacking the C and the I, the confidentiality and the integrity in that, not the availability so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's IoT in a whole this year. I think when we look at 2020, it's kind of going to be the year of it with 5G. With the deployment of 5G, I think we're going to start to see a little bit more of what you're talking about, Mark.
Yeah.
Well, I think where it may come to play, though, is we say IoT in general, but there's so many things in buildings and everywhere else in the world now that really is being classified on the OT side now.
The OT,
and now all of a sudden when you start dealing with OT, it's not just an inconvenience. Could be operationally stopping revenue flow.
Let's make sure the audience understands what you mean by OT, because the common understanding of IoT is Internet of Things.
Right.
Okay, so OT is not of things.
Right.
So go ahead.
It's operational.
Operational is the O in that case, right?
The O in that case, and so it really transitions in that you have a device that could commonly be what we would call an IoT device,
right,
but may be used in an operational capacity in a commercial environment, say.
Right.
So it could be, we have Nest thermostats at home. Mm-hmm. It could be controlling the HVAC, the Nest kind of devices in a commercial building. It could be controlling security access devices, badge readers, locks, and so forth. So what happens now if you lock in or lock out everybody from your data center and nobody can get through it if they were able to take control of something like that? I know they can't.
Yeah, let's not go there.
I know they can't, but
no,
you get what I'm saying.
It's a good point, and I think that's something that we need to remind our audiences is that we shouldn't rely so much on technology, because the answer to your question, to be totally honest, is we still have keys. And we have a 24/7 security guard force that can come and open the door for us from the inside.
Right.
Frankly, if we wanted to, we could break the glass too on the front door. But reality is that we need to consider not being so reliant on IT and have that manual backup, if you will. There's a lot of people that are putting the electronic locks on their home, and if that were to happen, hey, there's a great ransomware thing for you. Let's lock you out of your house, and you have to pay $30,000 to get into your home, right?
Yeah. Well,
or $30 to get into your home.
They've done that at hotels,
right?
Where they've launched attacks on hotels, where they've locked people in their rooms or outside their rooms, until the hotel paid a ransom.
Right.
Something I wanted to kind of bring to your attention, and I don't know if you guys saw this today, but there's a new bit bucket that installs 7 different types of malware on your device, and it uses real legitimate platforms to deliver the payloads through like GitHub, Dropbox, or Google Drive. The phishing emails are spectacular, by the way.
Sure.
The phishing emails are absolutely spectacular, but it drops 7 different payloads, one of which is the Predator, which is an information stealer. The other one is the Azar, which is, again, another information stealer, but this one has backdoor capabilities for passwords, email logins, and so forth. The evasive Monroe miner for crypto, and mining for the Monroe cryptocurrency. The Stop ransomware, which is based on open source. It's also a malware dropper. Viter, which is another information stealer, but this one targets browser cookies and history. AmityBot, a simple Trojan that's used for reconnaissance. And Intel Rapid, a cryptocurrency stealer that targets all your different wallets. All 7 of those come in one payload on your device. And as of
That's
right
efficiency.
now...
Yeah, I was going to say, defend against that.
And as of right now, there's none of the antiviruses or any of the softwares are able to pick this up because
Right.
it comes in and it acts as a normal file sitting somewhere, but meanwhile it's doing all the malicious
Well, now
stuff.
look at the vector there, because so many, I imagine, small and mid-sized businesses are not necessarily preventing their employees from putting personal devices directly onto the network and stuff.
Right,
And
so BYOD.
now you're right in.
So it starts with either a social engineering or cracked old software
Yeah.
on whatever device. So patching, we go back to
Sure.
Yeah.
patching, and then moves into a malicious archive, a zip file that you get. And then from that zip file, it downloads all 7 different payloads, and then it starts executing whatever command and control it wants to do from that end.
You know, we go back, it's like you said, patching. You know, we can prevent all this stuff with just good hygiene, right?
Well, it takes you know, one of the discussions we had last night during the live podcast was how do you really start to kind of get buy-in from the entire company,
Sure.
right? And patching isn't just up to the CISO. It's not up to any. If it was up to you guys, a patch would come out. You'd be like, all right, guys,
Done.
Done.
right? Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Right.
You've got to deal with your CTO, with your CIO, with business units, with marketing, and everyone has good intentions in a company, but people don't want to have any downtime. They don't want to risk something going bad. And that's another part of it. I think 2019, from my end, showed the lack of business continuity within organizations. So people had an incident
Well-
response plan, but no business continuity plans.
And it wasn't tested. And that's why ransomware worked. Because ransomware is defeatable if you have a good BCDR plan that you've tested and you know will work on top of a good incident response plan that will contain the problem very quickly. It will detect and contain the problem very quickly. You can restore your systems to operational state within hours if you have it in place. I'm obviously not going to tell you what
No.
customers, but I know one customer that had almost 20 servers that got hit by ransomware, and this customer may not be a data bank, just to be clear, but I know one customer that got hit with ransomware, 20 servers, quickly contained, rebuilt, and back online. It got hit about 11 o'clock in the morning. They were back online by 9 o'clock that night because they had good backups, they had good containment, and they were able to track back and fix their problem, the hole that people got into pretty quickly. On the flip side of that, I know another company that was hit days ago that's still reeling from the problem and is dealing with the problem.
So is it, would you say
They had you know, similar size server environment.
but would you say that this year is all about business continuity?
No, I wouldn't say it's all about business continuity.
Basic hygiene. It really comes back to our basics.
It depends on how you're asking the question. If I'm you know, I applied, you applied one word to 2019, awakening, right?
Sure.
So if I'm going to apply one single word to 2020, it's chaos. Because there's so many things going on. I mean, look at where we're at already on February the 4th, and list 5th, and look at how many major things that have already occurred in our news media right now that are outside of norm boundaries, and look at where we're headed by November of this year. Okay? It's going to be chaos this year. People are going to take advantage of the political situation. They're going to take advantage of existing situations like ransomware. Ransomware is on its way up. Last 2-3 months has skyrocketed. And
Well, payouts have doubled.
right.
The amount of ransomware.
Yeah, but I'm going to take the optimistic side of this.
Okay, let's hear it.
So you got another
I'm gonna,
word.
I'm going to go the other way too. I'm going to say that this out of chaos springs opportunity.
Of course.
So we have lots of opportunity, and if we tie all those like last 5 or 10 minutes together, we talked about, you know, the OT and the ransomware and all this delivery and things like that. I think we have a huge opportunity to educate about security as a grassroots education. So we have the opportunity to stop always talking to our employees about this is how we secure here at the office, and start talking more about how do you secure in life in general? How do you secure at your home? How do you pay attention to these things at your home? Oh, you need help teaching your teenagers how to be secure online? We can help you with that.
Right.
We have online videos or education we can help share. We need to start pushing that message and making it personal to the
Well, we got
employees.
to simplify security.
Exactly.
Well, we've got to simplify it, but we also, you're right, we have to make the security awareness personal. And I think I used this on last time that we were on a podcast in November, James, when I was talking about, we went through our security awareness training. And it really dawned on me that time when I was talking about the hook, book, look, took type situation that I had one of our employees come back, and we try and make it as exciting as you can, but it's still a sterile situation when you're dealing with security awareness in a corporate environment. I had one of the guys come back and says, I want my kids and my wife to be able to watch this. Is that a problem? And what clicked with me is, hey, if we can make our security awareness not just about the office, but we can make it about your family, and we can make it about other pieces of your life, exactly like you're talking about, Patrick, then we can make it hit home. We can really make it become an ingrained thing, a part of our lives.
The problem with that is people make security complicated.
Correct.
They get stuck talking extremely technical. They lose people in the process. You know how I know a good cybersecurity conference when I see one? When I get the picture from the back of the full room, and there's no one's head's buried in their phone.
Yeah.
Well, we have to
At
go
any
back
conference,
to
but yeah, you're right.
The basic principles. You go back all the way to Aristotle, I guess, and you talk about the three ways to make an impact on somebody through pathos being the emotion, and logos being the intelligence, and then ethos being that credibility that we're trying to show that we have. We've been selling security through logos only forever, and hoping that our credibility is built by selling all these details. And now we got to start finding, how do we make that emotional tie, and how do we build the credibility independent of all these facts we're trying to shove at people?
Yes.
So that always becomes I think a very, very interesting discussion. I did an awareness training for one of my peers, and the last 4 slides of the awareness training for this company was all personal stuff. Apps in the App Store, Android, patching your phones, IoT devices at home, segmenting your network, links to YouTube videos that show you how to do that. The kind of stuff where people left and I felt like they were more empowered. And in fact, when we did a phishing test 4 weeks later, the results proved that the training was really successful, because people, when you take it home, when you're able to apply it, like you said, Mark, if you're able to apply it to your house, to your home life, to your kids, to your wife, to whatever, it resonates a little different than a ransomware attack.
Right.
Well, notwithstanding being here on this wonderful podcast with you and Mark, the most fun I've ever had in a podcast was I spent an hour talking about security at that kind of level on a podcast called Big Girl Pants.
Yep.
I love it. It was the greatest thing ever. And we never once talked about all of the technical details that we talk about.
The other thing we need to do, and the three of us need to do, but all CISOs, BISOs need to do, is that we need to get off of our thrones and outside of our mighty towers, and we need to go into the high schools. We need to go in the middle schools and the high schools and maybe even lower, and have these conversations to embed it into the lives of the students coming out.
So I'll tell you a very interesting thing we're doing. I told you I did a talk that a lot of people know were for the World's Affairs Council of Atlanta on election misinformation, and the Atlanta Jewish Times ended up doing a story on it, and then I get a call from the Israeli American Council of Atlanta, and they're just like, hey, would you be willing to come and do an evening at a coffee shop with people talking about just security, elections, just fielding questions, let people come in, get a cup of coffee, sit down, and ask you questions. Would you be open for it? I was like, sure thing, we're doing it in March.
Good.
Right?
Nice, yeah.
And it's open to the public. It doesn't cost $1 for people to show up. But it's so funny. We opened an email registration list. We haven't even advertised it from our end as Engage. We're already at 170 registrants.
Really?
Nice.
So
Very nice.
another avenue is senior centers.
Yeah.
So seniors, so here's the challenge with seniors. The number one scam, according to the FBI, for seniors is still the phone IRS scams,
Right.
or your grandson's in Mexico and he's in jail,
Right.
Or your granddaughter, whatever the case.
Oh, I'll
may
bet
be.
you I know what the newest one's going to be. Your grandchild is in China right now, and they need to get evacuated to save them from coronavirus.
Yeah.
I-
Well, we're
if
already-
somebody's not already taking advantage of that, then you need to get this
Well,
out.
you're already seeing. I mean, I think I reported on it this week, right, Micah?
Right.
The coronavirus phishing
yeah,
emails.
yeah.
Right.
45,000 emails being opened an hour.
And
Yeah.
they're pumping
With
those things out.
coronavirus, and they're pumping them out in the millions.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think I saw, was it on your podcast or somewhere else? I saw that
It's only on our
the
podcast.
top three searches are people were confusing coronavirus with Corona beer.
Yes.
So they were having
some
that.
memes out there on
There's
that
a
one.
lot of
Yeah.
memes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other one was someone started some rumor or something somewhere that it had to do with the corona, i.e. the sun type of, there were some sort of sunspots that were related to corona or something like that, and that's how you got the coronavirus,
Well-
is you were out in sun too long.
So speaking of kind of that, as we look at kind of 2019, the epidemic of coronavirus has really kind of changed the way cyber practitioners have to look at it. One of the things I've been telling people is these health epidemics are triggers for these nefarious actors.
Of course.
Right? They just are.
Well, come on.
Opportunities,
I was going to say, let's face it. You said it earlier. I say chaos. You said opportunity. Well, that's what it is. Any criminal is taking opportunity of a weakness, right? So there's a weakness out there right now, and that's what they're taking opportunity of. It doesn't matter what it is. They'll find that they'll
Never
take
let a
it.
good crisis go to waste.
Exactly.
Right, but I feel like a lot of times our challenge within our security organization is letting people know that, hey, there's going to be nefarious actors trying to take advantage of this. The CDC isn't going to randomly email you.
Right.
Like, the government just doesn't randomly have your email address.
And
despite
the
what people
IRS
think.
doesn't call you
With
and
an
tell,
Indian accent.
and tell you that there's that and tell you that the sheriff is outside of your house right now. You pay or he's coming in. They don't do that. They send.
Well, they do, and I offer them coffee.
Oh,
So
okay.
Can
All right.
they come in and have
Have
coffee?
you gotten the
Yeah.
calls?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
I
yeah.
played one time.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. It's like, oh, really? Where's he at? I don't see him. And then I made them tell me that he was hiding behind a bush or something.
You're like, wow, the sheriff is hiding behind a bush. That's against all law enforcement protocol.
Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
get they're fun to play with, though. I mean, whether it be a scam, a scam artist or a ransom kind of artist like that, or even what used to just be the sales guys, the telemarketers in general. Is I used to love getting a call like that, because then I would, when they would ask me to buy something, I'd say, well, actually, I'm not interested in that, but I've got something I want to talk to you about. And man, you just launch into about a 20-minute script on a sale of something that doesn't exist and tie up their time.
Or how about this one? You called me at dinner. Would you like to come over for dinner right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of taking that to the practical piece, I think this is where we're starting to see, and you can really stop a lot of the ransomware.
Can.
Just regulate who buy domains names.
There's that. But it's just one more regulation. Do we really want
Exactly.
that?
I was going to say that really.
So
that really grinds my gears.
I
It's
know.
Yeah.
another regulation.
So you guys know that I am anti-government regulation
I know,
as a
but
whole.
that just came off your tongue too easily.
Yeah.
though.
Because I can't seem to find another way to curb a lot of the phishing that goes on, because the phishing comes from domains that look eerily similar to domains you trust.
Sure,
and
of course.
so if you require people to register, if you hold GoDaddy and Namecheap and all these other one-on-one, if you hold them accountable to verifying the identity of the person who buys that domain, then maybe we'll reduce a little bit of this.
The bad guys will find a way
Still
around
find a
that.
way to buy it.
I'm sure.
They'll just buy new identity and use the new identity to
I mean,
buy
look-
the domain.
They
Let's-
could, but I mean, in
Easy peasy.
well, in the advanced world of today, right, where when you call your bank, even though you may have never spoken to them on the phone, they verify that you are who you say you are by your voice, right? Like, opened a new bank account with a new bank, and I called, the first time I called, they go, yes, hi. And I'm like, how'd you know it was me? They go, well, your voice got heard. I was like, but I've never spoken to you before. Yeah,
There is that.
there is that.
Who are they really tied in with?
Big
right?
Brother's alive
Right.
and well.
Well, so if you look at that, we do have technologies in place to predominantly verify someone's identity, at least to a level of, I'm not saying it's foolproof,
Right.
but if you reduce it by 50%, that's 50% less.
Well, we could set up something kind of like we do on email with DKIM or something along those lines that will flag. And I'm not saying the old the whitelist, blacklist type stuff that we did on email. But if there's a way for companies to put in some sort of something in the header that's verified, that says we're legit. But in reality, that already exists to some degree, because if you follow Google's rules, and they should get credit for doing this, but if you follow Google's rules that says that any website nowadays should have a TLS SSL certificate on it, there's a bit of validation that goes on there. And if you're going to a site that's not TLS SSL properly validated, then that should be a flag.
I can't remember the last time I've been on a site that didn't have TLS SSL.
I
I've
own
seen
one.
expired certificates.
I own one, actually.
Well, yeah, okay.
You want to go to it?
No, I don't go to those sites.
There you go.
But I've seen a lot of sites where, as you're going through them, the certificate's expired.
Yeah.
People
Sure,
don't really understand how to maintain it.
Right, but again, it goes back to security awareness. We need to take the technology, we need to dumb the technology down to the common sense approach to it, because there's so many people out there that just don't understand that even after all these years, that an unlock up there in the bar, or the red that shows up depending on what browser you're using, is not a good site to go to.
But you're never going to regulate out stupidity.
No.
Look, I mean, I'm not for one that wants government who is very ineffective and inefficient to come regulate stuff they don't understand. Like, I don't want them to make privacy laws, because I feel like their privacy laws are nothing but a cash grab.
Sure.
And it's funny because the states that are passing all these privacy laws are the ones with the largest deficit and the highest
Right.
tax rates.
It's the same thing with pretty much any other kind of imaginary, homegrown tax. Let's face it. I live in the state of Illinois. Nobody started talking about legalizing marijuana until somebody realized there's a bunch of taxes involved in it and the revenue that can be generated from it. Nobody was talking about red light cameras until they realized that it's worth billions of dollars in revenue to their environment. Now they're all there. So anytime revenue could be generated by our government, they're going to find a way to do it. Depending on where you live, but in a lot of cases, that's the reality.
I'm actually a little surprised that the speed cameras haven't come to the U.S. in great numbers yet, because, like in France, you cruise the highway and all of a sudden you drive by a box on the side of the road and you get a speeding ticket in the mail. And
Yeah, again,
done.
that's France.
No, I get you.
That's France.
They have them in Illinois.
Oh, do they? Yeah,
Absolutely.
I haven't seen them.
I think they have them in
Yeah.
California.
Okay.
All places that pretty much like the French, and then in places where they don't like the French.
Socialist
they don't.
states.
The socialist states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Fair enough.
Socialist Republic of Illinois has those.
Fair enough.
And not only that, just like the Soviets, they have vans that drive around, so they're not stationary.
Yeah.
They'll drive around and they'll sit on the side of the road and look like they're broken down, and they'll be snapping your picture while you drive by.
So in Israel, they have speed cameras, and they realized that people knew their location.
Right.
So, I mean, I used to drive from Tel Aviv to Haifa. I knew every time there's a speed camera, I knew to slow down about 300-400 meters before, drive the speed limit, increase speed till I get to the next one. So Israeli police came up with a very, very smart idea. They said, we're going to take your picture when you pass it, and we're going to take your picture when you get to the next camera. We know how long it takes you to get from one camera to the other. And if it takes you shorter time frame than what our anticipated time if you driving the speed limit is,
Guess
you're
what?
getting a warning in the mail.
Yeah.
Unless you're the guy that's pulling the red wagon with a 1500 or whatever it was, cell phones all tied to Google in behind. Did you see that?
I did not.
So a guy got up close to a highway or whatnot. Go look up red wagon and cell phones. And guy got up close enough to a highway. Whole bunch of cell phones in his red wagon. He's pulling it along at a obviously very slow speed because he's walking. And it started showing up on Google that the map for that highway was showing as clogged because it was just
like
picking up.
1,500 cell phones.
They're just thrown into his little
Traffic.
little kid's
Wow.
red wagon.
I love it.
He hacked traffic.
All
Basically.
right, Micah, we've gone full on paranoia now.
So, kind of talking to the State of the Union, a very interesting
Right.
headline that we saw this morning was the Iowa caucuses.
Oh, you had
weren't
to go
hacked.
politics,
I
did
had
you?
to. I had to. State of the Union, folks. And here's the thing: we're cybersecurity practitioners, so we know that when someone says the Russians hacked the election, we can actually give a reasonable explanation to why the Russians can't hack the elections. I had to explain that to a group of folks, and then they went, huh. Now the Russians can influence the election.
Absolutely.
There you go.
They can't hack the election.
So what
Hacking
you're
is
saying is words have meaning.
No, really?
No. You know,
Look at that. You got the same reaction out of both of us.
words matter.
Yeah.
I love you, Nancy Pelosi. I really do. So we look at this year, and you said, we're in February now. Up until November, we're looking at chaos.
Right.
A lot of this stuff is going to be, and I'm sure as we get closer to the convention, the end of the primaries, and then at the height of the presidential race, we're going to see ransomware and phishing attacks that are going to be designed to use people's political leanings
Sure.
to generate clicks. How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
So you
That's
so
a
you,
good
so
one.
you hit us.
That's a silence.
So actually, I wouldn't deal with it any different than I'm dealing with it now. And we talked about that. Good backups, good security controls in place, so
More
on and so
awareness
forth.
training?
More awareness training. But not. We could set this on the side if you want. But what I'm actually looking for is the unknown. Does a nation state decide that they want to be a part of the chaos and they inject something into a power grid? Or
Exactly.
do they unleash something that attacks the economic piece, that makes it so the credit card readers are unable to take swipes and cards and stuff for 24, 48 hours?
So
The election's a distraction.
Yeah.
It's taking our eye off the ball. And then they go for critical infrastructure.
Well,
So we saw
and
that,
that's
though.
their way of impacting the
right,
election.
but in 2018 at the midterms,
Yeah.
we saw that was kind of, they had a plan set out in place.
Sure.
And I don't know if you remember this, but there was a story. There's a few stories on this, and then they kind of killed it. And I think that was more for political reasons than anything else. So before the 2018 midterms, Cyber Command, DOD, DHS noticed an uptick in specific foreign hostile nation cyber activity targeting the election.
Yep.
And so they went to the president, who then said, hit him. And 2 days before the election on Sunday, we hit him and took him offline for 5 days. Like anytime they tried to come back up, we took him down.
Smackdown.
It was
Whack-a-mole smackdown.
and we don't hear about it, but
So you're giving Obama credit here, right?
I'm giving Trump credit here.
Oh.
Because it was Trump who did it. Obama just stood around and just was like, hey, let's investigate the
That's-
presidential candidate.
I was baiting you.
You were baiting me. Listen, again, I have
Let's
different.
move from baiting to debating again.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you very much, Nancy. I really do.
I'd have to be a whole lot older, a whole lot uglier, and a whole lot less confident.
No, you're much funner than she is.
So no, let's get back to being serious about it. But you're
No,
right.
but-
You're right.
but, I mean, Trump did take that action. And
Yeah.
our Cyber Command did launch an attack on Russia and on Russian infrastructures, and we took him down for 5 days. That's why Russia did the test to go offline over Christmas, because that's a story that a lot of people missed. But I'm like, the fact that Russia was able to self-contain by disconnecting from the outside internet is kind of their way of saying, when we come at you next time, you're not going to be able to come in.
Right.
And
you know that's not possible to happen in the United States. Right. We can't shut it off here like they can.
Right.
And just like we just talked about, we don't want the regulation that will allow that.
And that kind of brings in the whole security versus government, because we do want that private-public relationship.
Right.
But the debate around it is, do you really want, Big Brother and in your business, in your program?
Well, we need to find a way for it to be a collaboration rather than a regulation is where we need to go. If we have the example of some of the things that CISA's doing, which is collaborative and helpful and educational and so forth. If we could find a way to instill that and feel comfortable about that through other areas of the government, then we might have less regulation.
Well, I think the one thing that CISA, the FBI, and Secret Service are very clear about, and we've all spoken to them, is we're not a regulator. We could give a rat's tail what goes on, whether or not you're compliant or non-compliant. We want the TTPs. We want to be able to, really do attribution on this. We want to be able to go investigate this. We want to know if this is something old that's coming back or if it's new and coming back. Tomorrow morning, this goes out Saturday, so I can say this. So tomorrow morning, we're actually breaking a story of how Charming Kitty has made a comeback. And it's made a significant comeback.
Wow.
Huh.
People thought Charming Kitty was dead.
Dead.
Not.
Nope.
It's like the measles. Keeps coming back. Polio keeps coming back. Right?
Well, and
Ebola.
yeah, it comes back.
It does come back, but you're starting to see these really kind of politics end up playing a role in our business.
Right.
They just do.
Right. They do. And, one of the things I think that we have to be careful of is as CISOs, as security practitioners, as the government, our entire country needs to be careful of, is how we analyze the intelligence and how we push that intelligence out. Okay. Now, I know that some of you in this room may disagree with me, but I think we did some disservice to our security community during the Soleimani situation.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the message coming out of the government was cyber attack is very possible, very imminent, watch out, here it comes. That got into the media and that became cyber attack is coming. We're all going down and we're just waiting for it.
Right.
My message inside of DataBank was, because I analyzed the intelligence and looked at not just the data that's in front of me, but considered the cultural aspects and the historical aspects and other things that are going on. My message inside of DataBank was cyber attack's not coming. They want blood for blood in that type of situation. Now, after they've gotten their blood, then the next step is how do we respond and how does this escalate up or de-escalate we now have history to show us that it de-escalated, but the escalation could have then included cyber attack. But initially no one was talking about, hey, the cyber threat, I don't think in those first few days was as big as what was presented. And that's something that we have to be careful of going forward in this chaos year is properly analyzing the intelligence data that's in front of us and putting a true threat and true risk situation in front of the right people and not over escalating something. We can't cry wolf too many times before people are going to stop listening to us.
So that's very interesting. After the Soleimani thing, I can't tell you how many CISOs got a call from their board saying, hey, we want a briefing of you know, what we look like, you know,
Right.
what's our threat landscape look? Could we fall for this?
Right.
Why do you care now more than yesterday?
Because
my question.
now they're watching it at the airport,
Right.
on you know,
Yeah.
on the Comedy News Network.
Right.
But you didn't pay attention to us when we said this is the way, or where we should be to begin with.
Right, but that's
notwithstanding Suleiman.
Again, I mean, notwithstanding to anything, if you take this around and you wrap cyber, our biggest area of opportunity always is going to be not only our board, but how we communicate with our board and how do we get our board to become more involved in cyber beyond compliance, beyond geopolitical, beyond those things. Like this whole stuff around the election, by the way, with Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and kind of all declaring what they're doing for the elections. I'm like, great, give the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, and everyone your
our
playbook.
Yeah.
Right.
Wonderful. Whose smart idea was this?
Name them. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah. So in all fairness, that's true, and that's one way to look at it. But you can also look at it like there is a certain amount of opportunity to use misinformation like that to affect the attackers looking at us. That I don't think that was their intent. I don't think they did that, you know, with forethought. But they could have.
Well,
and it would have been a good idea.
I think the challenge we have is we have a free media apparatus, right? And the free media apparatus today has what they consider a duty to report news or interpret news.
Yeah.
That's not always
Unfortunately, it's the
case.
wrong duty that they're giving us.
right.
So.
I mean, that's why we've said here. That's why I've said that on our daily cyber briefing. I will no longer name companies that are victims of ransomware unless the company itself has come out and said we're a victim of a ransomware attack.
Right.
But leading up to it, I won't name and shame a victim of a crime. I won't re-victimize them. That being said, I held out on reporting on the Toll story out of Australia for 4 days because it was rumored until yesterday. Toll came out and said, yes, we're under a ransomware attack.
Right.
And only this morning did I report on it, simply because I'm not going to go and report a rumor. I'm not going to put those guys on blast. But here's the thing. A large logistics company, you know what the common theme with them was? Business continuity. 3 days later, they're back up and operational.
Yeah.
Not all systems, but their
They were
backlogs.
operational. Their website wasn't saying 404. It wasn't saying we're
It
in
wasn't
maintenance
MERS.
for 5-6
Yeah,
days.
it wasn't
Mercs
MERS.
go, yeah.
It wasn't down for 17 days.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that CISOs could really communicate effectively to the board this year is business continuity, because that means something to the board. Can our business withstand not being operational for 17 days?
But see, I think it's more than business continuity. I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, that's
But
fine.
I'm thinking it's more than business continuity, because if you don't have some of the baseline security controls in place, your business continuity plan is going to fail whenever you start restoring those systems back to operation. You're going to take a situation that's you think is contained, that you're just going to bring it back into your system. So
Right,
you
but I'm
really
not-
have to
but
have
when
more than just a.
I agree, but when I say business continuity, I'm not just talking about backup, restore, run back, and operational. But I'm talking about what's your backup sales call center to handle influx calls from your customers.
Right.
How do you communicate internally with your different teams? Have you practiced with your different teams? I did a tabletop for one of my CISO friends who's like, hey, come help me do a tabletop at our
Right.
company.
Red team it, right?
We brought in every single stakeholder in the business.
Right.
So we had customer support, we had marketing, we had legal, we had finance, we had dev, we had AppSec. So all those different all those different departments and people were part of it, because part of our incident response plan to test was our business continuity. So, all right, this just went down. Customer support, what are you doing? Who do you communicate with? What are we telling our customers? What's the script?
Right.
Because the worst thing on the planet when you're going through something like that is to have your VP of sales or your chief revenue or whatever they call him nowadays, a customer motivator, whatever titles they try to get sales today to get through the door. I can probably open my email and have a bunch of them from all the different vendors.
Oh, yeah.
Sales
Very-
operations.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah.
What's sales operations?
It's kind of like DevSecOps.
Oh, don't get me started on DevSecOps.
Does he want to go dig the hole and bury that one?
He might. That might be his word. If we had white pieces of paper here, I'd have everyone write one thing on it, and then we can rip it in honor of our state of the
mine
union.
would be zero trust, but DevSecOps is behind.
Well, zero trust, notwithstanding, we can switch to that because zero trust is just all these different buzzwords. Well, we got to live in a zero trust environment, and you can't. That doesn't exist.
No.
That's like 100% security.
Yeah.
Well, zero trust means I trust no one,
no
not
one.
even
That's
myself.
right.
It's worse than that. And here's why I fight this zero trust thing all the time.
I want to hear it.
Is because
fired up.
when we say zero trust, this goes back to the earlier conversation we had about security awareness and getting people on board in their personal lives and stuff. When I walk up to you as a CISO and I say zero trust, that includes I don't trust you as a person whatsoever. I would rather do it trust but verify and teach them and build a relationship and have a situation where I teach you, Mr. Support Guy on the front line, the phone support guy, to recognize the phishing attack, to recognize the scam caller that's coming in that's trying to social engineer me, and defend against that and help me defend my network instead of walking up and saying, you little phone, you little support guy on the phone, you're nothing, you're zero trust. I can't stand that.
See, but I think there are good principles that underlie the concept. I think it's been marketed badly.
Exactly. It's always there's good principles and somebody has good intent behind it. But some sales guy and some marketing guy took over it, and that's the latest buzzword.
See, I think I mentioned it yesterday. I did a roundtable for vendors in Atlanta. About 20 vendors in the room. 5 of them were from the Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the rest were U.S. based. I got a reason why I tell you this, because the guys from the Czech Republic came, and I was just like, hey, I'm gonna get a bunch of vendors in the room here and just see let's have a roundtable discussion of, the different challenges. So the guys from the Czech, one of the questions that was around the roundtable was, how do you guys, what's your marketing like in the Czech Republic? Are you guys using similar techniques like these guys here in Atlanta use? And they're like, no, not at all. Was very, very interesting. The mentality of the Czech was, if you use buzzwords, you don't have any credibility.
Right.
Exactly.
So their entire approach to their customers isn't let me sell you something, is could we be partners?
Exactly. They respect the other person and say, hey, can I be a part of your life, and would you like to be a part of my life?
Right.
In the United States, it's how can I sell you the used car and walk away and get rid of it?
I think the problem with it is you got a lot of these startups that come in here, and let's be honest, Gil Schwade, in his first 10 years of running Checkpoint, was not a public speaker. Right? His black T-shirt, him going on stage now at CPX or at RSA or Cybertech or wherever he talks, Gil Schwade in his first 10, 15 years wasn't like that at all. He had to learn and develop that skill because he needed to be the face of Checkpoint.
Right.
Most cybersecurity founders of companies invent great products, but don't know how to sell it worth a shit because they have zero personality. So then they go out and they hire these marketing people who they think are geniuses.
Who have fallen back to the Wayne's World, if you remember the classic
Wayne's World.
And every time you turned around, they were facing the camera and holding up a product. And that's what it feels like when you get the marketing and advertising folks
I'd take that from Talladega Nights, the
There you go.
the end scene.
Yeah, same thing.
If you don't chew Big Red, then beep you, all right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But that's the challenge we have. And one of the very interesting aspects is, could we, there's very few vendors that I know where the team is compromised of security folks who have a little bit more skill. And I always say when I talk to cybersecurity vendors and I'm talking to an owner of a company, a CEO, I'm like, don't hire marketing people, hire relationship people. Don't spend money on marketing, spend money on relationships. Hire people, go out, build relationships, bridge gaps, 5 people out to lunch and just talk.
So I was doing a panel discussion 2 weeks ago tomorrow in Portland with a security vendor. And that was my message to them. There were 200.
You were in Portland?
I'm in Portland.
Wow.
Oregon. Not Maine, Oregon.
No,
But
I know. How was it?
it was about like it was like out right
No,
now.
I'm
It was
talking
cold
like
and dreary.
people-wise, like Portland's like the heart of just horrible part.
It wasn't that bad.
My sister lives in Eugene, and so
Okay.
I just no.
No?
I don't
All right,
like
sorry.
Portland.
Well, I was in Portland, and I had 200 or 300 salespeople in front of me from one company, from all around the world, and that was my message to them. Be a partner, sell relationally. And I used their sales guy, who I have a relationship with, as the example. I said, if you want to know what it's like, go talk to this guy sitting in the crowd right here, because that's what's kept you as my customer, or that's what's kept us as a customer with you, and that's what's expanding our relationship. It's, if you come in and you're Talladega Nights type thing, and you got your big white teeth and your smile up and you got the product next to your face and so on and so forth, I see right through that, and I see a gimmick. And I said, don't send me those stupid emails that say, hey, you must have missed my last one, and oh, you're ignoring me now.
Or the calendar invite.
Or the calendar, calendar.
Well, I told you my rule. I've told you my rule on LinkedIn. I'll pretty much connect with anybody that wants to connect.
Yeah, and please do.
But if their first comment or their first message to me is, "This is what I have to sell," it's remove connection, delete
Out.
Conversation. You're out. If you want to sell a relationship first,
right?
At least one message of, hey, where do you live? What do you do? What do you think about that?
Even something as simple as like, great to connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for accepting my invite.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And then the next conversation can be, I'd love to learn more about what you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah. So lead with, if I'm the sales guy at DataBank and James or Patrick, you're the prospective customer. If I come in and say, I want to learn more about what you're doing, James, then maybe that door will open up for me to talk about what I'm doing at DataBank.
Oh, of course it will. James loves to talk about himself.
I know. And so do most people, right?
I think people always love to talk about themselves.
It's like pot calling kettle black right now, right?
I think, you know what? I don't take offense to it.
Yeah.
I think that everyone that's, including myself, everyone in this room and everyone in general, when, the thing behind CyberHub Engage when I started it was, I didn't want to talk security. I wanted to talk about the people.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're all selling something. And
Right,
including
but-
ourselves.
Including
Some of
ourselves,
just
exactly.
like our products better.
So,
though.
Or
Yeah.
our philosophies,
Yeah.
our thought processes,
But what makes security intriguing than any other role in a corporate job, the role of a CISO,
Yeah.
is you're the first guy on the chop when something bad happens. You're getting fired.
Exactly.
Part of our topic for tonight's roundtable.
How to recover from that.
How to recover from that from a personal basis. I've had Graham on the show. You and I
Yeah.
did a fireside chat with Graham, and it's tough. And the goal of this specific podcast, I can tell you, is to give these CISOs a voice, something that they can lean back to. So when something bad happens and your name's in Reuters and Bloomberg, or that's not the only thing that shows up, but also your input, you as a person, your journey into cyber, that's going to get your next prospective employer to go, you know what? There's more to this than the headline. There's more to this.
Right.
I can probably sell this to my board.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go talk to this guy.
This guy's not as bad as he looks like on Bloomberg, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's not bad as he looks like in different publications, even within the industry. I mean, we're so quick to shame a CISO who's part of a breach. That to me is one of the main reasons I started this podcast.
Well, let's dive into that for a second. Why is it so easy to shame a CISO when it's typically not the CISO that really is the one that caused the problem? Right. It's probably the CISO that was out there waving the flags and standing upside down, twisting their legs in the air, going, you got a problem over here, and you guys need to, change the access control list, or you guys need to lock down the firewall, or do proper review of ACLs or whatnot. But yet, it seems like it's the CISO that's always the one that goes down.
Yeah.
I think the CISO goes down, one, because it's a leadership role. right? If a bad operation goes down, the general's typically the guy who.
And I'm not sure I totally disagree with that from the people working. If there's not evidence that, there's somebody made a mistake, that's one thing.
Right.
But if that CISO did not take the proper ownership, the seal book, extreme ownership. If he didn't take ownership of making sure that everything was understood below, then there's culpability. There's a certain amount of, he needs to take ownership of that. Where it's difficult for me is I'm going to be interested to see the book that comes out that is nothing but a collection of short emails that the CISO has written to his executive leadership team, telling them exactly what they need to do, and them writing back and saying, no, we're not going to give you the money, or no, you can't do it.
Right.
And just it doesn't have to have any other narrative, just short stories from the CISO.
Right.
Good luck getting those
them.
emails.
So,
good luck getting those emails without a.
So here's my
desist.
answer as to why the CISO goes first and is always the scapegoat, because the CISO has not yet fully been accepted to what we call the L1 leadership team.
Right.
Okay. They may have a seat at the table, or they may be invited to sit at the table once a quarter to talk about their situation, but they're not yet in most companies fully invited and fully a part of the L1 team. Even if they're there, they're not the ones that are fully embraced as part of it. So when something happens to the environment and it's at a technology level, the CTO has been fully invited and fully accepted on that L1 board, right? And so the easiest guy to eject is the one that that is kind of at arm's length but still part of your team, because it's not going to hurt as much.
And I think
so the CISO is the one that goes first.
And I think the way we start to change some of that is this idea of, money talks. So as soon as we can show the real contribution value or show $1 of revenue, then I think the CISO becomes a different flavor.
I don't disagree with that. But I also think that there has to be an aspect of board acceptance in that.
It's evolution.
We aren't to the point right now where we can even say 50% of the boards in the United States want to hear from security, except for in a knee-jerk reaction type situation.
Or if they're in an industry that, or in financial services, for example. Yeah.
And going back to what you said about generating revenue, there's so many times that the CISO is viewed because of regulation, so we can come full circle on that, CCPA or something else, that it doesn't matter how much revenue the CISO makes. If I'm out there, 5 days a week selling and I'm on airplanes and I'm really part of the sales team,
Right.
When CCPA comes down or its next version comes down and costs the organization more money because they have to put in more tools and more security controls, I can be generating $500,000 a week on revenue, and CCPA will cut into that by $50,000. They're seeing that. Yeah. And if we get a federal regulation on the privacy side, that's even going to be worse.
See, one of the things I keep hoping for is that, now that we're done with all the sham stuff leading up to the election, we're able to get into some real doing by our elected officials, where we can really pass a federal data breach notification law. Let's start with that. So you don't have to report to 50 AGs. You can report to one federal authority that takes it from there. That saves the company a ton of money. That takes away so much of your money. Because right now, data breach notification is 60% of the cost of a breach.
So we have notification rules already in place for HIPAA.
Right.
Your name stays on the website forever. So if we're going to do that, we need to have a timeout period. We need to have a way to prove yourself off of there, because one little mistake could ruin an entire company. Forever. Seriously, there's people on that DHHS website that show that they've been fined that is 10 years old. Are they still acting that way? They haven't been fined in 5 years, and are you telling me that they're still worthy of having their name on that list?
Again, I think that's part of where our government really does lack an understanding of how they're writing these laws, and a lot of times their idea of getting insight into security is to invite McAfee and the guys who are selling the products, not the guys who are actually doing it.
Sure.
Oh, I thought you meant John.
No.
No, the company that exists after him, right?
The company
Yeah.
does exist after him, but they invite the guys who are selling the
Sure.
snake oil to come talk about
Sure.
what needs to be done.
Sure.
And they're not talking from an industry perspective. They're talking from a snake oil salesman perspective.
Yeah. And not to be fair, and I know we're going to wrap up here, but to be fair, it's not also always how the law is written, but it's how it's implemented. And unfortunately, in some cases, the laws are implemented different from administration to administration. So we also have to have some continuity there. FISMA is actually a pretty good law that impacts the internal federal government. So it's a law written for themselves. But then you start tacking on other implementations of that, and that's where you run into some of the problems and some of the misunderstandings and chaos with FISMA and understanding how to do it. You've got DOD running around doing their thing. You've got PMO at FedRAMP doing their thing, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think it's it ends up being the same kind of story with regulation, where it's either too vague and too open to interpretation. So
Right.
what's acceptable risk?
Right.
You're leaving that up to debate.
What's reasonable? Yeah.
Yeah, what's reasonable risk?
Right.
And then you have the same thing when you talk about privacy laws, as well as any other rule. Is it seems like when people start to get their hands on a bill that's being written, being that I've been in DC and seen the process, there's so many hands that go into the pot that they'll write one thing and then 5 lines later they're contradicting it.
Right.
But because no one understands what they're really writing, you have that contradiction. The law goes through, something happens, then you get lawyers litigating this, and it's costing us taxpayers and
Yeah.
the government more money to litigate a badly written law
Right.
than it does to get one done.
Right.
So what I heard in summary is that 2020 is going to be another episode of Toad's Wild Ride.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, what's your prediction for 2020, Mark?
Well, I think I've said it.
Chaos?
I think we're going to have chaos, and I like chaos leads to opportunity. I think 2021 might be the opportunity side of it, because I just see too much stuff going on that's going to impact us geopolitically, internal politics, the ransomware stuff that's going on, the things that we don't even know about that are going to happen because they're in the future. I think it's going to be a tough year. I really do.
Yeah, I agree, especially with respect to the geopolitics. So I think we're going to be overwhelmed by election-centric aspects of what happens in our economy and what happens in the world in general. And I think those economic effects we're going to see ups and downs that are going to cause people to scramble, because they'll think, oh, we have opportunity and revenue there, and then there's going to be, oh no, we got to pull back. And so I think that's the chaos I think we're going to see. Is we're going to see a lot of stop starts going on, because there's so much uncertainty that's going to exist this year, and we won't have that relative certainty until after we know what happens at the election.
I'm going to go completely opposite to both of you.
Not surprising. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I mean, I'm gonna go a little different, because I think that this year is going to be the year of security really taken front and center, and it's going to be the year that's going to transform the practitioner's modus operandi within an organization from a security perspective. I think because of everything you said, taking a bit of that, because of that chaos,
Oh yeah, I agree.
security is going to become very, very popular within an organization.
It can be an impetus, yeah.
Right,
Yeah, no.
and I think it's going to actually enhance security overall.
I completely agree with you. You're not disagreeing with me at all. I mean, the chaos is going to lead to that, and it's going to lead to more awareness. It's going to be leading to more opportunities for security to shine. And it's going to be typical type of situation though, where the flaws are the ones that are in the media, and the ones where we prevent the attacks or we prevent the situations from going really bad. Those are the ones that you're not going to hear about. So this type of podcast hopefully will shine the ones that shine the light on the ones that are.
And so the CISO challenge is to bring calm to this otherwise running around yelling the sky is falling, and that's where the CISO is going to have its biggest play is
absolutely
just calm down. We can deal with it. Let's just make a plan and move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I want to say, Pat, Mark, thank you for joining us today.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
This
should
was
do.
fun.
We should make sure that we do a wrap up after Thanksgiving, and play some of this stuff back and find out how accurate or how inaccurate.
So how about
were.
we do that over bourbon and a cigar?
Absolutely.
All right.
Kind of like our end of
You
year
missed out. I
wrap-up.
gave him one last night.
He
to
gave
take
me a
home,
cigar
so-
last night.
I
to
heard.
take
I
home.
heard about
And
the
the bourbon,
event.
the whiskey was just so good. I could have drank that whole bottle, but he had a lock on the door.
I'll stick to my water, but I'll enjoy the conversation.
Yeah,
How's
there we
that?
go. That'll work
Awesome.
too.
For everyone tuning in, thanks so much for listening to the CyberHub Engage podcast. Patrick Benoit, merci beaucoup, monsieur.
De rien.
Mark Houpt, thank you so much, buddy.
Spasiba.
Spasibo bolshoi.
Right.
Пожалуйста.
Пожалуйста.
There we go. That's my Russian for today. And assalamu alaikum, Shabbat shalom. We'll be back with more next week. This is the CyberHub Engage State of the Union for 2020 with two of my favorite people on the planet. So much more coming to you guys next week on our journey and road to RSA. Yes, I'm taking the dreaded trip to human feces in San Francisco. Until then,
Go
we'll
in
be back.
peace.
Go in peace.
Go in peace.
And I'm not taking good shoes with me. That's it for today. Yeah, I'm buying like Payless shoes. Like I'm gonna walk into Payless, buy
They don't
$10.
exist anymore because
yes, they
of.
do.
It's Crocs for the Crocs.
Yeah, it's literally the shittiest shoes you can buy. Welcome to San Francisco.
Well, there's your new sponsor.
There's my new sponsor, Payless Shoe Source. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're out. We'll be back next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Shabbat shalom, and we're out.